Hi everyone, my name is Madan Mohan Rao, Research Director of Your Story Media, and on behalf of all of us at Your Story, welcome to this session on Indian FinTech, unlocking a $100 billion opportunity through digital platforms. Before we introduce our speakers today, let me set the context briefly. There are a few clear trends emerging in the Indian financial landscape, namely the rise of millennials as the largest consumer segment in India, and the business from this segment is expected to grow even further. Number two, the growth of new fintech institutions, fintechs, and startups with a focus on customer experience, digital first, and a data driven approach. Number three, favorable regulatory environment that promotes innovations such as account aggregators, co-origination of loans between banks and NBFCs, JAM, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar Mobile, and of course the India Stack, UPI. The aim of today's panel discussion with our speakers today is to discuss the key imperatives for success in open banking and open finance, and the role of applications in acquiring digital agility for innovation and scale. We have with us Ravi Ketana, Chief Platform Officer at Computer Age Management Services or CAMS. Welcome aboard, Ravi.
Thank you.
Also with us is Rajat Gupta, Chief Digital Officer of Zebia. Welcome aboard, Rajat.
Thank you, Madan.
Joining us also is Mr. Prabhu Rangarajan, co-founder of M2P Info Fintech. Welcome aboard, Prabhu. Also with us is NK Purohit, Chief Digital Officer at India Infoline Limited, IIFL. Welcome aboard, Mr. Purohit. And we also have with us Vijayant Rai, Country Head of BFSI at Microsoft India. Welcome aboard, Vijayant. Let's get started now with the questions and answers for this panel discussion. Let me invite Vijayant to set the stage now by describing to us what are the key application trends today in the financial services industry in India. Vijayant, over to you.
Thanks so much, Madan. Thanks for setting the context, and it's great to be on this panel today. If you look at the landscape and the way it's sort of evolved, and probably what we've seen in the past 24 months or so, it has been just staggering, right? And with the whole impact of the pandemic and the digital acceleration across different parts of the industry, it's been sort of I would say a renaissance of sorts when we look at technology. It's been an unfortunate period in many ways, but also what's happened is it's accelerated digital to a level which was never, we could have never conceived, even just 2 years ago. So some of the key trends we've been seeing, key themes we've been seeing, which have been evolving in across the market. So the biggest one in my mind is what we call as empowering employees. So if you look at organizations today, they're trying to make sure that they can enable people to work from home, work securely, etc. A massive theme, because this was a world where people used to go to offices, go and visit people, etc. And all of a sudden, organizations had to pivot the way they could enable their own people, and technology was the thing which came to the rescue there. So one big theme which we picked up and which we worked on, big across all financial institutions across India was enabling financial institutions to sort of remotely secure the way they work and go about that. The second big theme was in terms of customer experience, and that's changed completely. May it be sales experience or a service experience, and that's completely transformed. And we've seen the advent of chatbots and different technologies to completely change that part of the game. We've seen CRM solutions completely transforming the way organizations have been doing traditional sales and service, right? So a big theme there: contactless sales, contactless service, because you again didn't have the physical world to actually complete a lot of things there. So what this also has done is it's brought in a lot of innovation. And we've seen so many fintech partners coming into the game to actually enable a lot of things and reach out to a much larger audience than would ever happen, right? So differentiated customer service was probably the second big theme we've seen out here in the market. The third big theme is in terms of data, and what we call in Microsoft as enabling intelligent data organizations. And we've seen the use of data for either monetizing it or creating new products and services for the market at large. So a massive amount of focus on data. which again, brings about the factor of newer things which come out of data. For example, we've seen organizations create super apps, as you call it, or an aggregation of apps for their customers, employees, everybody coming on a single app to do different things. So we're seeing a lot of that come in. We're seeing a lot of platforms and ecosystem plays, being created. We work with some very large banks, for example, who are creating ecosystem and platforms for, say, for example, SMEs or for education or for different parts of the market. We're seeing, for example, a bank which is now looking at gig workers and saying that how can we create a platform for gig workers going ahead, and we are partnering with some of all of that. So very interesting trends out there in the market, which we've observed in the past past 18-20 months, where the acceleration has happened in a big way. Besides that, I mean, we're also seeing the advent of with all of this happening, a lot of acceleration of digital is the whole aspect of security and threats, and that's increased exponentially as well. And again, we're seeing a lot of focus from organizations, from our IT partners and ISV ecosystem, which works with Microsoft to help sort of take care of those threats on security which you come by. So largely, if you look at it, Madan, we're seeing trends across empowering employees. We're seeing trends across differentiated customer services, across creating intelligent data organizations. We're seeing a lot of focus on automation per se, because people have seen that they can use technology and then create some very interesting interventions which can reduce, say, turnaround times or access a new market completely. And Microsoft actually works across all these themes, either with our own solutions or with partners, and a lot of them are fintech partners as well, to help cater to these themes and requirements.
Thanks, Vijay, for that excellent 30,000 feet overview of what's happening in this industry, along with some specific use cases. Let's now turn to Mr. Purohit from IIFL. Mr. Purohit, as a leading established NBFC, what are some of the application strategies that you have adopted to grow and win in this landscape? For example, what is the role of digital application platforms, processes, and tools such as DevOps in your response? Mr. Purohit?
Yeah, thanks, Madan. Thanks, Madan, for inviting on this. Let me give you what is fintech from our perspective. Okay, people think fintech to be a company which is 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. It's not like that. Fintech is a company who is primarily focused on technology and is into a financial services space. So company like us who has been into existence, or a conglomerate like us who has been into existence since last 25 years, are also one of the leading fintech organizations, because we have been solving customer problems as per the availability of technology at our times. It's not that technology has come today. Technology has been evolving, and organizations like us have been using technology over a period of time. When I say so, it means that we were the first organization who understood into the investing space the importance of aggregating of data to help customer make an investment decision. That is where the roots of IFL come into picture, and we couldn't have done it without leveraging technology at that point of time. And I am talking, Madan, 25 years ago. Okay, as and when technology evolved, we have adopted to the technologies to as latest as we are among the few players in the country who leverage Microsoft's data science capability to the fullest. Okay, so we as in a conglomerate, we have leveraged technology as and when it is available. We have always worked towards getting the best solution in place. And how I differentiate versus a 3-year-old organization in terms of leveraging these technologies is, we have a customer base of more than 3 million. I bring a data science solution, okay, is of no use if I don't have data to intelligently mine and create insights. So what we bring on table is intelligence of the customer data of last 25 years. And that's where we are able to create experiences for our customers across the value chain of the customer. Okay, just to give you a brief understanding of my perspective to fintech. So if you have to be fintech, there is no age associated with it. Second is when you said DevOps as of today, to become agile in the fintech world is hygiene. I can't become agile if I don't implement DevOps. In order to, in this changing environment, nobody knew till 15th of March that in another 15th of March 2020, that in another 10-15 days, our entire business models will go for a toss, be it sales or a service. And that is where our investment into in-house technology as well as implementation of cloud first helped us in terms of pivoting our business both from a sales side as well as customer experience side across the verticals of organization. So as a conglomerate, I have a wealth organization, which is IFL Wealth, where I cater to the ultra high net worth individuals of the customers. I have an NBFC wherein I lend. I have an investment company for the retail and the premium customers. So we service from a financial services perspective across the landscape. And my key technology stack or the various technologies which we use help us to come out, pivot our solutions, pivot our business model, pivot our sales and servicing infrastructure as per the needs of the company. When I say so, what we have done in last 2 years have been an eye opener for us. Okay. Although we were very technologically advanced, we were the first investment company in the country who came out with a web-based trading platform. Some 10-15 years back, when people were still on talking about trading on phone or still talking about doing this. As far as gold loans are concerned, we are one of the largest player in gold loan. We still manage more than 70% of our gold loan journey digitally. Today, among other NBFCs, we also distribute personal loan completely paperless, contactless. Okay, so across this gambit, apart from opening a savings and a current account, we do everything which a bank can do. So how we have achieved it in last 2 years and what has helped us is primarily our foresightedness in terms of understanding the need of technology and implementing it. Because whenever you implement a new age technology, as an organization, you are taking a risk because it is not in a mature technology. But it is always said that somebody has to take that risk for the industry to benefit. So as far as cloud migration is concerned, we were among the first few who went for cloud migration, not from a non-core application perspective, but from the core application perspective. People take risk of migrating to cloud from a non-core perspective. We were the one who started with core application migrating to the cloud. We have also leveraged in last 1 year, we are talking very heavily with firms like Microsoft to enable our employees work efficiently from anywhere. For us, work from home is not a concept. For us, the concept is work from everywhere. I come to office every day just to ensure that rest 3,000 employees of IIFL work from anywhere. So we are leveraging that, and ours is a very time sensitive business. Okay, from 9:15 to 3:30, or for that matter 11:30, every second counts for the investor because it's his hard-earned money which is invested. And to service those customers, we are leveraging lot of technological solutions wherein my service guy sitting anywhere in the country can service him securely without compromising on customers' information or organizational database. we have never thought in the past that we will be able to achieve that level of servicing or that level of efficiency with us. Third thing which we are focusing a lot from a fintech perspective is that we have never believed, we today also don't believe that I can do all. Okay, we believe in collaborating with various like-minded firms, be it old or new, wherein we come with our customer issues or pain points, work with them to develop innovative solutions and deliver customer experience and value to my customers. So as of today, in the investing space, IIFL has the largest universe of collaboration. We collaborate with largest fintechs in the country. We have recently started a fintech enhancer fund also worth 100 crore rupees, wherein we would be investing into fintechs with whom we are working, collaborating, so that we don't only help them create solutions, we also work in their growth. So for us, this is entirely an ecosystem wherein we want to be part of the ecosystem and grow with the ecosystem.
Thanks so much, Mr. Purohit. That's a fantastic answer to that question. You've shared very good insights from your hard-earned lessons from 25 years of being not just a B2B or a B2C player, but a B2B2C player, built a whole ecosystem around all of this and investing in it. That's a great story. Thank you so much. Let me now turn to our next speaker, Mr. Prabhu Rangarajan from M2P Fintech. Let's take an example of UPI payments. This is the other big trend these days. It has been clocking billions of transactions per month, expected to grow even more in the next coming few months. So as a leading fintech, how do you plan to support this phenomenal scale that we're seeing in the market? What are some technologies you plan to leverage to support this growth? I'm thinking of cloud, containers, but I'll leave it to you to fill out all the details. Prabhu?
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor for me. At M2P Fintech, right, we think every company can become a fintech. Can we be the vehicle that takes them there? That's what we do. That's what keeps us awake. That's what we end up, waking up and running to the office. That's what drives us to the office, right? So as you rightly said, UPI has had an enormous growth. It is scaled absolutely, crazily. Not many platforms across the globe have attained such a scale in such a short period of time. And I think cloud has been one of the drivers for that enormous growth. And the moment you talk about scale, all of us think about cloud, right? Which is the most obvious. Over the last decade or so, cloud has actually made a lot of things possible, which were a distant dream about 2 decades ago. However, taking an application to the cloud is a different story from making an application cloud native, right? Making an application cloud native means that right from the way it is programmed, right from the way it is developed, deployed, maintained, all of those aspects have to be taken care of. And with with newer technologies that are emerging, and all of you know about the microservices-based architectures and the containerization options that we have right now. So these have actually made the advent of making an application cloud native much more stronger and much more integral to the entire application build journey, right? So in that sense, say for example, if you have a cloud and you deploy an application to the cloud, and most of the DevOps teams go and test the application to a certain benchmark, and we all can be happy about it. However, there are these big billion days and prime days that come now and then, right? Every now and then, which makes it much more harder for all these teams to go back, revisit their strategy, IT strategy, keep rinsing and repeating many of the tasks that are already being done. So that is exactly where the newer technologies like Docker, Kubernetes, and overall microservices-based architectures comes in handy. So I'll take a minute explaining about microservices. I'm sure all of you guys know about it, but it's basically there are so many monolithic applications, especially in payments, in banking, in financial services. There are so many monolithic legacy applications that are there, which are being challenged. Those are the status quo which are being challenged of late, at least in the last half a decade or so. And when you break down all those bigger pieces into smaller, tiny modules or services, that is exactly what microservices is largely about. Say, for example, in the UPI portion that you mentioned, adding a VPA is a different story altogether from adding or making a payment to a friend, right? So when you are seeing more scale of existing customers doing payments, you'll be better off having that as a separate microservice and have it auto scale by itself, right? Because there are not many customers onboarded at that specific point of time. This is exactly what a microservices architecture can bring to the table. So in that sense, when you look at a microservices architecture, you build the application. How do you build it? How do you containerize it, right? So containers are nothing but it is a basically it makes every application its dependencies, its various operating system related dependencies, its applications code, and all the other modules that make it effectively run on a server into a atomic unit, right? It is an atomic unit of deployment or operation. So that is what a container is all about. And once you have a container, so Docker, which is the most widely used containerization model right now, and in fact, we use that as well. So with Docker, you build it and you are able to deploy it automatically. You are able to make a lot of streamlining around how you deploy. Your DevOps processes can be built, but there has to be something that takes that container to the cloud, right? So that is exactly called as the orchestration layer. So that is where Kubernetes comes into picture, which effectively gives us the ability to take the containers application to an infinite scale, right? And that is where Microsoft has actually done a great job with the Azure Kubernetes cluster, which we use very widely. It has given us that infinite scale, the possibility of going to an infinite scale. You can always set a floor and a ceiling limit of how much scale do you want to grow towards. You can set alarms, alerts as and when the behavioral patterns change. If you suddenly see a spurt in traffic, you can specifically go and fine tune that specific application or that specific pod or the microservice, which is an enormous value for the IT team, for CDO departments or the IT services departments. It is a huge cost saving. It is a huge feature to have, because that is where most of the budgets go towards, right? There is 1 big billion day sale happening and suddenly the traffic is 10x. It's a pain point for the CDO to kind of manage that. We can't go and buy bare metal just because there are a week-long promotion by one of our clients, right? So that is where this AKS cluster and whatever Microsoft and team have done is really handy. And so what happens is, say, going back to the same example, with the UPI payments suddenly scaling up, suddenly you see a lot of payments happening. You can specifically do a patching, specifically do a deployment, development, or scale up or scale down of a specific module, like let's say a balance inquiry or adding VPA or a payment to a friend. All these can be developed separately. So that's the entire flexibility that these new methods bring along. And what has happened, right? It is there for all of us to see. UPI has shown the way of how a specific P2P or a P2M application can be done. There are so many others. UPI is just one example. There are so many others in banking, financial services, insurance, which can actually attain such scales, right? We can bring in the best of interoperability, best of cloud, best of containerization to all these aspects and make it a compelling story. And whatever we build in India, right, it is easily portable to the world, because India is where we are we are a society where we ask, even though it is a BMW or Audi, we keep asking kitna milega, right? So we always see extract the best value for every buck that is spent. So this brings in a lot of value to the entire ecosystem. When we talk about the next $100 billion opportunity or $1 trillion opportunity, this easily contributes to that opportunity, and the advent of achieving that is accelerated by adopting such technologies. And I would like to give you a small example of what we have done with the Microsoft team over the last 6-7 months. We have a project called BAD at M2P. It is billion a day. So bad in not in the literal sense. It's billion a day, which is every application that we are developing. We would like to have that tested for performing a billion transactions in a day, right? That is where we started. We set ourselves a goal of making a billion transactions within 24 hours, right? And then with having worked closely with the Azure team, we were able to bring that down to 13 hours and 12 minutes, the most recent last week, right? And the actual target to our development team, to the DevOps team, and to the Microsoft team is to bring it down to an hour, right? So the scale at which the entire Indian ecosystem is running is somewhere between 60 to 100 million transactions a day. I'm talking about billion a day, and we are getting to a billion an hour, right? It is not at all seen anywhere in the world, right? And we do have the capability and the know-how to kind of do it, right? So that is where we're all going towards, and I'm pretty excited about the opportunity that lies ahead of us. In fact, as Mr. Purohit rightly mentioned, India Influence is kind of defining how investors and traders are expecting more and more out of every money that they spend and invest. Similarly, we are investing more on the infrastructure. We ourselves are an infrastructure player. We enable these fintechs. In fact, IIFL is one of our clients. We enable these fintechs, and we are the operating system layer for them. And Microsoft is indeed the operating system layer for us, where we rely on their infrastructure to co-create a lot of compelling experiences. Thank you.
Thanks, Prabhu, for your passion for this subject and to explain how these interlocking technologies come together and also deliver business impact at scale. That's a remarkable story. From technologies, let's now turn to integration. Our next speaker is Rajat Gupta from Xavier. Rajat, you play a key role in modernizing BFSIs by integrating the enterprise systems with digital-first services from product vendors, fintechs, and startups to provide a brand new customer experience. So what role do APIs play in this integration? What are some of the best practices that you have adopted in your digital engagements? Rajat?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Madan. So first of all, before I answer this question for the audience, let me just quickly, in a sentence or two, explain what APIs are. APIs fundamentally are functionalities which allow organizations or their systems to actually interoperate, which means seamlessly connect to functionalities and data that they all have to offer. Now, if you look at banking in general, banks have completely started initiatives to digitize their legacy systems. So what that fundamentally means is they are now looking at building the best of the experiences, digitizing them both from a product and service standpoint, and providing them to their customers in a self-service manner, which is bringing all of that they have to offer under one digital umbrella. So that's something that all banks have started in various forms of manner, and APIs are the backbone for this entire digital transformation to happen. Because earlier the problem statement was that the systems were closed, and since the systems were closed, you had no other option but to log in into that system through whatever interface the system provided and basically do the interaction. But now that's no longer the case. So you can actually stitch your digital on the customer experience part and integrate it to any back-end, back office, front office system to provide that particular capability. What has also resulted, interestingly, as a part of this is not just the APIs that a bank has to offer, but also an integration with bank's ecosystem partners. So leading to a concept of what we've started seeing as super apps, wherein a bank is actually providing in its digital experience functionalities of which it is not even the owner. So for example, if you log in into a banking app, you might see your credit score. Or if you want to buy a car, your entire digital experience, right from selection of the vehicle to the dealers to financing, everything happens seamlessly within the app. You don't have to basically go to multiple sites, properties, etc., to just complete a transaction. So it's stitching of the journeys, which has become possible because of this entire ecosystem. And this is something that I have seen really fostering a lot of attention. Another resultant thing, in my opinion, which has resulted because of the APIs is this entire open API ecosystem, wherein earlier banks were, let me put it like this, both manufacturers of their products and services as well as the only sole distributors of these products and services. But now what has happened is, because of the open banking regulations and allowing the customer uh, the control on its data in a consent-based manner, has really resulted in a lot of new financial experiences coming through. So on one hand, you could potentially have something like a personal finance manager application, which is at the back end integrating with every single financial instrument that you hold and giving you your net worth across the financial services industry, which was never a possibility, to setting up something like complete BaaS platforms, platforms which are just only providing APIs and basically taking care of all your core processes, be it accounting, be it deposits, be it payments, and only leaving the neobanks, the digital banks, the fintechs to worry about the customer experience, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. How you are able to build the next level experience for your customers. So APIs, as probably we've all understood, is the backbone which just fosters this innovation. As Zebia, we believe when you look at an API, it's not just a functionality, it's a whole gamut of multiple things. So the first level that we actually understand when we look at APIs is design. How do you design the API for it to be both functionally accurate and performant? How do you basically make the API very secure? Because remember, these APIs are now being given to third-party providers or consumers. So you have to ensure the utmost level of security in those particular APIs. Then you look at basically auditability. At the end of the day, you are giving your functionality to somebody who is using it. So you need to have auditability, who did what very cleanly. So that is another area that we really pay a lot of emphasis. But most of all, documentation. Because in order for this story to actually stick together, what is very crucial is that you need to have a thriving developer community, which can understand an API contract, understand what that API would do, and hence what it can be used for. So that's where we feel, building up API marketplaces, sandboxes is something that we really foster and we really promote, because it helps just this ecosystem to grow. Thanks, Madan.
Thanks, Rajat. Let's turn to another big trend in this space now, which is account aggregators. Let's turn now to Ravi Ketana from CAMS. CAMS has been at the forefront of technology innovation for years in terms of aggregating investors' portfolios and offering key services. Now, with the account aggregator framework going live in India, what is your perspective for future growth opportunities in this space? This has been predicted to be the next UPI almost. What are your views in this space? How are you preparing your systems from the technology standpoint to support this growth? Ravi?
Yeah, thank you, Madan. Just to give a quick why we need the account aggregator. So as an industry, we have been having a lot of rating agencies and all on the liability side. I think that also came as part of the regulation part of it. So when I need something, so everybody knows my credit history, how do I lend and how do I not lend it? But something like on asset side, we don't have anything. Basically, a lot of assets are managed by different institutions. Even if you take a financial services, there are different branches like your mutual funds and all your asset management, and also your banking, many more. So there was never a share of information across those entities on that. So account aggregator is going to bring entire thing into a single framework. Say there is a user who is going to actually use this information to provide services, and they're also provider, we call as the FIP, who actually provides the data, and there is the actual consumer who actually requires the services. So AA as a platform provides the platform for consent. See, one of the key thing in this account aggregator is the consent. Say for every use, I need to give a consent, how long it is valid, and who can use and all. So that entire platform gives us the consent management. What it gives you and what is the benefit is the cost of acquisition is going to be very, very minimal, very fast. Say I can do in a minutes, whereas I need to send a form, get this documentation, the documentation, all of them can be done in an instant. And second thing is the cost of servicing. So whenever I need a changes, like we call as a non-financial transactions, like change of nominee, change of addresses, many more. All of them can be done at a click of a button. And third thing is the cost of advisory. So unlike liability where I only vote to someone else, but here is the asset. I may be investing in different assets, may not be optimal. So people can also advise it. Something we call it the cost of advisory. All of them are going to come down drastically. Cost of acquisition, cost of servicing, and cost of advisory. So what we are doing is we built a cloud native platform for all consumer management part of it. And second thing is there is a sandbox we created so that the participants can come and play with it, how to integrate, how to do it. And third thing is we are also a TSP, that is called technology service provider, who we can bring the FIUs onto the framework so that they can integrate and they can provide these services to the end consumers on that side. And fourth one is the we call it the value-added services. A lot of analytics and based services we can also provide it. So all these things, I mean, we are ready and we are able to service the customers. And last but not the least is the biggest thing in this entire ecosystem is the participation. Participation in the sense, today a lot of FIPs, they will say that what is the benefit for me to share the information? Somebody will take away that money from me and invest in somewhere else. So it is a lot of regulation is required, a lot of advisory is required. And like mutual funds, there's a lot of promotion that goes on, like mutual funds, Sahi, something like I think we need to be done on a immediate basis. And the last but not the least is there are a lot of assets spread across the multiple regulating authorities within the government. So all of them have to work together to speed up the entire rollout of it. So if we do these things, I think it will be very, very different. I think all of this contributes to financial inclusion, what we are trying to do, get a masses into the financial services industry so that people can make use of the capital available at a lot more cheaper cost, servicing, advisory, so on and so forth.
Thanks so much, Ravi. We now come to the end of our panel discussion. But before we wrap up, I want to ask each of our speakers to share with our audience maybe one key piece of advice that has worked very well for you in your own technology journey, which can be used by members in our audience in their own technology integration journeys. Let's begin with you first, Mr. Prabhu.
Sure. I think in all of what we think about scalability and security and cloud, let's also always think about the way it can go wrong. Always think about security, the dangers around cybercrime and everything. So always strategize around making all the applications, the integrity of the applications and the security of the applications as the topmost priority. That's my 2 cents.
How about you, Mr. Purohit? Some gyan, some advice for our audience out there?
For me, fintech is all about agility. Agility sometimes has been misunderstood with madness. What I believe in is that you can only deliver agility if there is a method in madness. And implementing DevOps helps you to implement that method in madness. So the faster we implement DevOps in our organizations into our entire process, the more agile we are and more we will be able to leverage new age technologies.
Thanks, Mr. Purohit. Find method in the madness. That's very good advice indeed. Rajat, over to you.
Thanks, Madan. So I think the most important key takeaway that I would want everyone to take away from this is when you look at a digital transformation journey, do not only restrict yourself in basically taking that digital transformation journey in your customer facing channels or your employee facing channels. More often than not, the products or the experience that you want to carve out is limited by the capability that you have behind those channels as part of your core applications. So any successful digital transformation journey has to go hand in hand with the modernization of your core systems and their processes. Now, whether you are basically going to look at it as a microservices architecture and modularizing them, or you're going to adopt new age cloud native technologies for powering that core, but that initiative has to go hand in hand, or else you will never be able to achieve the full potential of your digital transformation.
Great. Thanks, Rajat. How about you, Ravi? Over to you for your pieces of advice.
Yeah, Madan, here there's a couple of things we need to keep in mind. Number one is the foremost is the user experience. We should not forget the entire India when you talk about inclusion. Not everybody is very literate, so the apps has to be absolutely easy to use. And if you complicate the entire transaction process, there will be drops off. So one of the biggest issue a lot of apps face right now is people won't complete it because they're not easy to use it, and a lot of time it makes difficult. So the one advice to all developers and everyone, whoever is does it, it has to be very, very, very simple. Maybe few clicks, people should be able to do the transactions. Second thing is probably we should look at the local languages. So may not be, I mean, everything, but at least start with the some of the more widely spoken languages in addition to English in India. Otherwise, that inclusion will be a problem. Say expecting everybody to know English may not be the right thing to do it here. So we need to get some local language part of it. And third thing is the open standards. So it has to be open because the ecosystem, AI ecosystem is going to revolutionize the entire asset side of it. And people have to be open and don't create any barriers so that everybody can come and build integrate their own applications on that. And last thing is a promotion. It is very important we publicize these initiatives and get more and more of the providers, users, and consumers onto the platform. Just one more point I just want to add is we should not forget the bandwidths in India. So we also have to be mindful of when we do an application, it works in a very low bandwidth also. Otherwise, people will have problem accessing the actual content.
Thanks, Ravi. Even in spite of those constraints, there is opportunity to be found. Thanks for this very
Yes.
good pieces of advice. Now, Vijayant, you have the last word. What is your take, given your very wide experience in this whole across industries, actually? Vijay?
Thanks, Madan. Thanks, NK and Prabhu. I think great thoughts there in the panel. So what I would actually urge everyone to do is think, and Prabhu talked a lot about it, India scale. I mean, this today, I think we're not limited by technology at all. There is technology there available to you to scale, to expand, to innovate. It's just amazing how the boundaries are going away. This is probably the time to think really big because from a technology perspective, it's limitless what's available to you, the cloud and all the wonderful stuff we have around cognitive technologies, etc. around there. So my one urge here would be that think India scale, and think limitless.
Thanks so much to all of you for your insights. If I were to summarize some of my key takeaways, it would be the three S's: strategy, systems, and scale. Begin with a strategy which can address very wide kinds of customer interest, consumer interest. Also think about scale, how you will scale up not just to a scale of 1 billion in India, but the scales across the world. And finally, systems to make all of this happen. Today, technology is not just an enabler, it's a core part of strategy. With that, I must thank all of you again. Thanks to our audience also for joining us. Thank you all so much.